Welcome, lover. I'm the Naughtie Scribe, author, businesswoman, and your host for the next hour. This live stream is dedicated to love, sex, acceptance, and understanding the lifestyle and ultimate sensuality. Trust me, lover, the knowledge I drop will be straight, no chaser. So sit back and prepare yourself. It's about to get naughty. Welcome, lover. I'm the Naughtie Scribe, author, businesswoman, and your host for the next hour. This live stream is dedicated to love, sex, acceptance, and understanding the lifestyle and ultimate sensuality. Trust me, lover, the knowledge I drop will be straight, no chaser. So sit back and prepare yourself. It's about to get naughty.
That's all peak of me. Keep flashing me, baby.
Welcome, lover. I'm the Naughtie Scribe, author, businesswoman, and your host for the next hour. This live stream is dedicated to love, sex, acceptance.
Welcome, lovers. I'm the Naughty Scribe, and once again, you're on the Nice and Naughty Hour. Now, tonight's show is going to be a little intense. Okay, subject matter came up from my guest Vox, who is a master and in the scene and a really intelligent. Wonderful guy, and another friend of mine, Jay, who's a friend of the family. So, mwah, he's both guys are going to be on later tonight. And basically, the subject matter was: if you are a black man, can you truly call yourself a black man if, in fact, you have a white master? Now, we're not talking about the transatlantic slave trade. We're talking about BDSM, which is short for bondage sadomasochism, which is one person likes to be dominated and a little pain, other one likes to be the dominant and give a little pain or training or whatever. Some of you have seen the bullshit movie 50 Shades of Grey. Trust me, if you're actually in the life, you know the parts that were bullshit, okay? But that's how a lot of America have been recently exposed to alternate lifestyle and bondage. So, with that said, I'm just going to go over a few things. I'm going to remind you guys about the rap and dirty song contest. So remember, get your entries in to Jeremy Beaver at WLSV Radio. Okay, WLVS Radio. I'm being corrected because I'm dyslexic with the tongue, but trust me, it works what it's supposed to. Um, so we're going to remember, get your entries in for that because the grand prize is going to be a 5-hour block of recording time at Listen Vision Live Studio, WLVS Radio. Okay. Also, we're going to talk briefly about the Survey Monkey poll. I'm loving that you guys are being proactive and joining in there and taking the poll. And yes, lovers, because I have to be on air at 9 and get my ass down here by 9, that means the poll has to end at 8 o'clock. So please, I love you and I really appreciate your willingness to indulge me taking the poll online and sending me your responses inbox. But after a certain time, I do have to cut it off because I got to be in front of the camera. Okay. Love you though. Also, we're going to talk about a little bit about some of the responses that I got on Facebook. So let's get into our what the fuck moment. So we're playing with you tonight. What the fuck? Told you. Okay, so while we're playing around with that, um, we are going to touch briefly on race in America. And trust me, lovers, I'm not going to get into the big brouhaha with what the fuck. Thank you. I'm not going to get into the big brouhaha about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, everybody's lives matter. We're all children of God and we all matter, okay? But some of us have a different struggle than others. And I think sometimes in the cross shouting that gets lost. But there's a specific reason and a specific part of racism that I want to talk about before we can actually have a full understanding of tonight's topic, which is bondage, a dilemma, and hype. Black man, if you are a submissive to a white master, again, we're talking about the BDSM, bondage, sadomasochism scene, can you truly call yourself a black man? And this has caused a bit of a problem for some men, a bit of a concern. And I need to touch on this just a little bit. Now, I'm 50 years old. Okay. I was born in 1966. So please understand that what I'm about to tell you isn't that long ago in history. 1967, just 1 year after I was born, the state of Virginia lost a Supreme Court ruling against the Loving family. Now, some of you have talked to or know that in November, and I'm planning to be one of these people who's going to see it, November 4th, the movie based on this case called Loving will be in theaters nationwide. Why does this matter? Again, in 1967, just 49 years ago, it was illegal up until then. It was illegal for people of different races to be married in the state of Virginia. Understand me. It was illegal only 49 years ago. That means within my lifetime, lovers, it was illegal to be an interracial couple, to be a white man and a black woman, a Mexican and Asian. If you were outside of your race, it was literally illegal. You could get arrested and do jail time. You could lose your property and your job if you were interracial, fell in love, and did what most normal people do, get married. Okay, and we're talking about a man and woman. We haven't even gotten to the same-sex issue, which is a whole different ball of wax. But in 1967, the Loving, Mr. and Mrs. Loving, took their case all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did rule, believe it or not, lovers, 1967, the Supreme Court ruled that Virginia's law, yes, my loving state of Virginia, the Virginia's law and a ban on interracial marriage was unconstitutional and struck it down. Remember, up until 49 years ago, in most of our lifetimes, meaning your parents, if you're under the age of 49, within my lifetime, it was illegal for me to love and marry someone in the state of Virginia who was not black. Okay. Take you even further, lovers. I'm sorry, I'm also being hitting up on Facebook. But in addition to that, lovers, in 2000, we're not talking about 1800, we're not talking about 1900, we're talking about the year 2000, 16 years ago. 16 years ago in March, as a matter of fact. Some of you may have heard of this case. It's called Bob Jones University. Okay, Bob Jones University is a big, famous, religious, evangelical college that does a lot of great work. Don't get me wrong. And they have phenomenal professors. So I'm not taking the education part away from them, but it is a religious institute. Just 16 years ago, 2000, March of 2000, they finally dropped their ban on interracial dating on their campus. And it wasn't even a black and white couple, which is what most people think of when they think interracial. My former lover was Colombian, so there you go. But I digress. It was an Asian parents who sued the university because their son, an Asian son, fell in love with a white girl and was thinking about marrying her. So he wasn't even doing anything wrong. He wasn't hitting and quitting it. He wanted to keep it. He wanted, as Beyonce said, he wanted to put a ring on it. Okay. But because they were students at Bob Jones University, it was well, not illegal because it wasn't a law, but it was against the university policy for people of different races to actually date. Now you have to understand this. We're talking about a college. We're not talking about antebellum educational system. We're talking about only 16 years ago. Hell, some of you were born who are driving now were old enough when this shit went down. But this is what I'm talking about when I mean race and romance. Okay? That our history with racism is not as old and as far gone as some people want to say. Now I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I do have to say this because a comment did come up and I had to shut it down. So I'm going to repeat myself, okay? Slavery ended roughly a little over 200 years ago, the transatlantic trade, which made my ancestors chattel in this country, okay? The 4th of July happened a hell of a lot longer before that. So here's the problem. I was hit up on Facebook and said, why can't y'all get over what happened in slavery time? It was over 200 years ago. You know, we should all get past it now and be one country. Well, as I said to the gentleman, yes, he was white. Do you get over the 4th of July? Do you not celebrate that? Because you do know that preceded slavery. His reaction was, well, that's about the founding of our country. We still deal with traditions and repercussions from there. And so I just had to, just kind of bite my tongue and just think to myself, yeah, something that happened before slavery, you don't have a problem acknowledging that it has ramifications, benefits, and traditions that last even to this day. But slavery that ended a lot sooner than that within a couple of generations from now, that we got to get over. That you have to have a problem with, okay? So again, racism in this country is unfortunately an original sin, and it didn't even start with us. It started with the Native Americans, and it's gone through different iterations, and right now with the election of the first possibly female president to follow the first African American president who was elected twice, a lot of people are feeling really uncomfortable, this whole give me my country back and whatever. But I did need to bring up those two cases and make it clear to you that racism is still alive and well in the United States. And unfortunately, lovers, just because you fuck someone of a different color doesn't necessarily mean that you are absolved of racism or prejudices of yourself. A stiff dick and a wet pussy can get past a lot of shit until you bust that nut. Then after that, you get back into your stupid shit. Okay? So don't think that just because you can say, hey, I date a black guy or I date a white girl, that somehow that means you're not a bigot or that you don't have certain prejudices. We all do. Yes, lovers, even black folks have them too. Okay? So that's going to be the gist of our show. Now, I'm going to touch into something before we go into our first break, and that is the economy of being in the scene for black men. Now, imagine this. If I were to talk to you about whips, chains, collars, humiliation, dog training, restraints, role play, you are not equal to me. You must be on your knees at all times. You are not allowed to look me in the face. You must follow my instructions and do what I say do. If I were to tell you that that was just last night at a party where I had a great time, some of you would be like, oh my God, she really is. She really does leave the freak like, yeah, I do. But if I were to tell you that this happened to my ancestor over 200 years ago, the exact same scenario, you would have a different reaction to that. Now, does that mean that because I enjoy certain sensualities and that I enjoy them with people of different races, that I'm a traitor to my race? Fuck no. There's a difference between the slave trade and the difference between a consensual slave. And we're going to talk more about that right after this break. So we're going to go into our first one now. Thank you, baby. I can. I got you. I'm going to ask you to do two back to back. I'm going to ask for pick one, and then I'm going to ask for pick two. Welcome back, lovers. This is the Naughty Scribe, and once again, you're on the Nyce and Naughty Hour. Now, let me get pick one up, please. A lot of you who are on my Facebook page and buddies and have been to my various websites have seen this picture of me all over the place. It's also going to be the focal point of my new banner. Now, I want you to pay close attention to that photo. I am, yes, wearing a submissive or bondage collar. When some individuals saw that picture on Facebook, it erupted my inbox like crazy. In certain comments, I had to make sure, I'm sorry, just weren't appropriate to be on that site. Why? Because there were some individuals who felt, as a black woman, how dare I sexualize slavery? Well, here's a newsflash, lovers, and we can come out of that. We can come back, Wiley. Here's a newsflash. Whether you want to accept it or not, there were parts of slavery that were sexualized. And I'm talking about the part where black women were used as quote unquote bed warmers, which basically meant that a slave of that unfortunately caught the eye of our master would be required to fuck him at night, basically to keep his bed warm. Did he really care about him? No. Once he fucked them, he put them right back out in the field with everybody else. And if they had children from the coupling, that was just another asset he could sell or use on his fields. Okay. Same thing with the quote unquote big black buck. Okay. If he was a big, strong, refrigerator Perry looking motherfucker, okay, that was somebody that the master would grab because, like horses and dogs and other animals that had a certain physical type, if you bred them with a female with similar qualities, you would get prime stock. And I'm using these words deliberately because that's what chattel slavery is. You're not a human being. You are property. You're no better than the dog that's being walked on a leash, because that's as much as your master cares about you. It is what they can get out of you and what purpose you serve for them. That was the basis of chattel, or the transatlantic slave trade in the United States. Now, let's flip it over to today. Okay, to be a slave is not to lose power, is not to be abused, is not to be unloved. In fact, a good master, not a poser, a good master not only cares about his slave, he cherishes them. And let's be careful about the word slave. Slave in the BDSM lifestyle or alternate lifestyle does not have the same meaning it did for our ancestors. Okay, so let's be clear on that, lovers. We are not talking about treating someone as subhuman. Now, I know that some of you are going to say, but wait a minute. I know in the scene, there is a thing called dog training. There is a thing called humiliation. There is a thing called sissification. And for those of you who don't know, sissification is basically that. It's primarily for men, but sissification is when you feminize a man, when you take away his masculinity. It serves a purpose. It does have an erotic tone to it. But here's the thing. If it doesn't work for you, it's not for you. That doesn't mean you get to demonize somebody that it does work for. And this is the whole part of educating you who are not in the lifestyle or who are curious about it, to be more open-minded about things. And that's part of what this show is about. So let's get into a little bit about the dichotomy of the tools of the trade, as it were. Whips, chains, collars, restraints, practices like humiliation, training, endurance training, dog training, whatever. These are not code words, but these are different avenues in the BDSM community. Now, bondage by itself, for some black men, is a turn on, and for others, it's a no-no. The second a woman pulls out a pair of handcuffs, I have literally had men who've told me, oh my God, all I want is for a big, beautiful black woman to cuff me, tie me down. Thank you, darling. Cuff me, tie me down, and sit on my face. Okay. And you have said this to me like a gazillion times to the point where I'm like, you know what? We're going to try this out. We can bring me out. So, yes, the naughty one has handcuffs along with a whole lot of shit. Remember, this show is brought to you by the Nice and Naughty Adult Boutique, which is me. Okay, so clearly I bring out a nice pair of real police issue handcuffs that I do have a key for. But I bring out a pair of handcuffs, things are going nice. I go to slip them on you and you freak the fuck out. Now remember, darling, you're the one that told me that your fantasy was to have a big, beautiful black woman cuff you, restrain you, tie you down to the bed, and sit on your face. Now that I'm actually trying to get the cuffs on you, you really want to act like we're on a crime scene and that you're the one being abused. Okay? Again, it's not for everybody, but do understand, while one person sees handcuffs and thinks police, brutality, injustice, a different kind of bondage, a different kind of loss of freedom, to another, the loss of freedom, the loss of control is sexy as hell. Think about it this way, guys, okay? You're expected to be macho. You're expected to be dominant and in control, especially in a sexual situation, okay? But part of you is like, damn, I just want somebody to do me. I just want somebody to fuck me. I just want somebody to take control of me, to make me their bitch. Not in a bad way. Just take over for me. I don't want to be in control. I just want to be used, okay? That is a sexy ass thing for a lot of people, okay? Especially if you are, yes, a submissive. Now, how do I know? I am an out and out switch. It means at times I'm dominant and at times I'm submissive, okay? I can roll with my partner. It all depends on how things are going and the energy that he's putting out. But it can't be fake because as a dom, I do know when somebody's bullshitting me. But that being said, okay, for a black man in particular, now, ladies, we go through our own shit. But for men, your race and your sense of maleness plays a lot in how well or how you don't enjoy sex. For instance, we all know that you guys have that special sound. We like to call it that bitch sound, but we all know that you hit that really good orgasm. The balls draw up, the tip of the head explodes, the shaft is jerking like crazy, and everything is doing what it's supposed to do. And you make that sound. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. We women live for that shit. We live for that noise because that's our way of saying, who's your mama now? Okay? But you make that sound. As soon as it comes out, you're like, damn, boo. It's like that? Yeah, that was good. The next morning, you're like, yeah, don't be telling nobody about that. That was just something that happened. That don't make me no punk. Motherfucker, until you opened your mouth and said something stupid, I was having some nice afterglow. Okay? So my thing is this. Because for 2 seconds, you did something that you in your head didn't sound masculine, now you're going to fuck up our evening. Okay, or the morning, because I was gonna make your ass breakfast. Now you ain't getting shit. Go to McDonald's and get a McMuffin. Okay, but that's part of the economy that we talk about when we talk about the scene, or especially BDSM. There is role play, there is a power play, but the primary purpose of a master, not black, white, pink, or purple, just a master, period, is to take the lead, not control. To take the lead in the sexual development and exploration and enjoyment of his submissive. In other words, maybe you're into some things, but you don't know the proper way to go about it. Maybe you have urges that you're not sure how to handle. Maybe you've gotten to a particular level of orgasm and didn't know that, yes, lovers, there's 5 other levels after that one, okay? And they all produce a euphoria or almost religious feeling or fervor. There is someone called a master who will take control of the situation, who will guide you, who will help you learn the things you need to learn. But in exchange for that, you must be submissive, meaning you must not challenge. You must accept. You must trust and you must have faith that the things that your master is going to help you explore, learn, develop, engage is a nurturing thing, and it's a yin and a yang, because a master without a sub is just somebody playing with himself. So you are just as important to the master as the master is to you. I know some of you have seen been around friends who have a clear dominant submissive role, and I've known women that said, oh, I could never be some weak bitch like that. Her man orders her dinner for her. Her man picks her clothes for her. Her man does this. Her man does that. He takes control. I don't want a daddy. I could never live like that. And here's a newsflash, heifer. He ain't your man. So mind your fucking business. That's what works for them. Okay? And who knows, your bitter ass might actually like it if you tried it. I'm just saying. But anyway, the point is that that dominant submissive relationship also works the other way around. I had a very close friend who passed away years ago, but his wife was the breadwinner. She was the dominant one. He was literally a house husband of two young beautiful boys, and guess what, it worked for them. It is not a situation that will work for everybody, but it worked for them. He was mostly a person who was a follower. He was mostly a person who was a support team member. And there's nothing wrong with being a support team member. Hell, if a lot more people were more supportive, maybe we wouldn't have everybody getting into pissing matches because everyone wants to show whose dick is bigger or whose boobs are bigger, okay? But you have to understand that there is a dichotomy for the black man, because he for so long has been demonized for his strength, for his sexual prowess, for his eroticness, that it has been seen as a threat to white men. So when a black man puts himself in a situation, whether it's with a white man or a white woman, and we're specifically talking about white on black, if a black man puts himself in a situation where he is, for all intents and purposes, giving up his will, his control to a master, and the master happens to be white, there is some self-loathing that sometimes happens with that. Because the first thing, well, the second thing, the first thing is, oh, I found a qualified master who can take over my sensuality, who can help me develop my sensuality to the level that I want to get to. Sexy as hell. But the flip side is, shit, I'm letting some white man or some white boy tell me what to do, some white woman putting her foot in my mouth. No, this shit can't go. So that is the yin and the yang for a lot of black men. And I was very moved when I had some impassioned discussions with guys who really are in the scene, love being in the scene, but they really did have to overcome that hump. So please understand that the dichotomy, that the contradiction, the pull that some men have, it's not a permanent thing. It is something that in time you can relax and get to understand. You can even get past it. But the one thing you cannot do, and I've seen some masters unfortunately make that mistake, you have to understand the difference between a fetish and a desire. A fetish is something you want specifically because of itself. A desire is something that can provoke a reaction, an erotic reaction out of you. It is not necessarily specific to any one thing. For instance, if a master says, I want a black slave, I want an Asian slave, I want an Oriental slave, I want a Mexican slave, because this gets me off. This is not about the master giving a damn about the slave. This is about somebody who has a fetish for particular races. And it doesn't matter whether you're a good slave or not. If you fit the profile, yes, I said it, if you fit the profile, then that's what's getting this person off. So that's a fetish. That's like someone who has a foot fetish. I love the rest of you, but looking at your feet, playing with your feet, kissing your feet, touching your feet, giving you a pedicure, that gets me off to no end. That is something I must have. The rest of you is just extra. This is what I must have. That's a fetish. Now, here's the problem. There are some masters out there who confuse the fetish with a true desire to be a good master. A good master doesn't give a damn what your color is. A good master cares about the person themselves. So we're going to get into more of that after this break. Okay, lovers? See you in a little bit. Welcome, lovers. This is the Nyce and Naughtie Hour, and I'm your host, the Naughty Scribe. So we're going to do a real quick getting it in since I kind of got into it already. So can I get that, darling? Okay, so in the getting it in segment, we're going to talk just briefly. Remember that what the dichotomy is for black men is their racial hurts, historical hurts, versus their desires to be a slave. And in particular, if that master happens to be white. Also, we talked a little bit already about the tools of both trades: whips, chains, training, dominant, submissive, humiliation, different types of sexual acts that requires one to be the taker and one to be the giver, one to be the dominant, or a masochist, because a masochist is someone that enjoys inflicting pain, and there's different levels of pain. And the sadist is someone who enjoys receiving it. I'm sorry, backwards. The sadist is someone who enjoys giving it. The masochist is the one who enjoys receiving it. So do understand. We're having a little bit of difficulty. Monitor went out, but we're going to keep going. Um, so that's part of the dichotomy for black men. Also, we talked a little bit about the transatlantic slave trade versus being a consensual slave. And a consensual slave is just that. A consensual slave means I give my permission. I am giving over my will to you. I am giving over my control to you. I am giving my safety to you. That is a choice I am making. Trust and believe, lovers. The transatlantic slave trade, there was no consent. You were taken by force from your homeland. You were ripped from your families, and you were forced to do sexual acts. You were forced to do labor. You were forced to amuse. You were forced to die. It was at the master's behest that all of this happened. So, again, lovers, do understand that that is the main difference between a consensual slave and the transatlantic slave. So, again, in case you didn't pick that up, because we did have a little bit of difficulty, transatlantic slave trade or slavery in the United States was not consensual. A sexual slave, a sensual slave, BDSM player or lifestyler, it is a consent. I am giving you my sexuality to develop. I am giving you my willpower. I'm giving you control over me. This is something I am choosing to do. So that is a big difference. And why does that matter? Because when it comes to our beautiful, strong black men, you do not need to feel embarrassed or ashamed because you get off on having someone take control of you. You don't have to feel embarrassed or ashamed that there's something wrong with you, or worse of all, which is a phrase that was just fucking driving me crazy when I first heard it. You are not a race traitor because you enjoy being whipped. You are not a race traitor because you enjoy being bound. You are not a race traitor if you enjoy having someone take control of you in a sexual manner. Now, I will tell you that control is very sexual. We're not even talking about getting it in and getting it out. Giving someone control over you, because a true master has an influence over you all day if it's a full-time master, and if it's a long-term relationship, for as long as that relationship lasts, which means that a master might call you and give you instruction over the phone, something to do. I know when I was a master, and yes, I did have a white submissive, I used to make him wear a butt plug for me all day. I used to call him throughout the day and have him take it out, put it in, jerk off, walk around in certain undergarments, and prove it to me when we got together later that evening. And trust and believe, this was a man in his professional life that was so above me as far as income, status, and influence. And yet, the biggest fantasy he had was for me to take control of him. And it worked for us for several years. So all I'm saying to you is that you are not a race traitor. There's nothing punk ass about it. It is a form of sensuality that you enjoy. It is it makes you no less of a man than having somebody suck your dick. Okay. If I were to say, oh, sucking the dick is a punk ass move, the first thing you would say is, oh, no, that shit feels good. You don't understand. It's about this, that, and the other. Just like that whole bullshit about she swallowed me, so therefore she loves me. Okay. Again, it's a sexual desire and appetite. What works for one doesn't work for the other. Don't demonize something that you're not familiar with. And ladies, gentlemen, be willing to experiment sometimes. Because here's a newsflash: spanking my ass when you popping it from the back, that's a bondage thing. That's an S&M thing, okay? That's where that shit came from. So don't everybody say, well, I'm not into chains and whips and all this other stuff. I'm normal. Trust and believe. I promise you, some of the shit you're doing in your bedroom now that you think is spicy, it was borrowed and watered down from the scene, okay? Okay, so let's jump into our flag on the play because it's about time we start talking about some serious do's and don'ts. Thank you, Wiley. That was perfect. Okay, first flag on the play. Don't forget that M&S or S&M, dominance and submissive, is a loving relationship. It is a relationship. And do understand this. A master-slave relationship can be almost like a marriage. Okay? Sorry, I was expecting a call. It can be almost like a marriage. And to some people, it's even better than a marriage, okay? There is a commitment. A master does not take a slave willy-nilly, okay? A slave does not give up their time and energy to serve this person on a whim, okay? And to be in it is a committed relationship of a different kind. It takes time to develop. It takes time to understand each other. It takes time to know the ins and outs of each other. Just because you're a master doesn't mean you get to abuse someone. And just because you're a slave doesn't mean that you don't have rights and that you're not entitled to fulfillment and joy and nurturing. That is something that a true master will do for you. And in another show, we're going to talk about the qualities to look for in a good master, and yes, the qualities to look for in a good slave. But first and foremost, understand that a slave master relationship is a relationship, and it's a nurturing relationship. It's just taking on a different flavor than the traditional one you're thinking about. Don't let peer pressure sway you or prevent you from enjoying something that is for you. And that's not just for the BDSM, sadomasochism, dominant, submissive scene. It's not just for that. It's any sensuality that doesn't involve children and animals. Okay, I'm putting that out there, okay? But I'm talking about between consenting adults, okay? Whether it is a fetish, whether it is swinging, whether it is something a little more intense like bondage and submission, it is not something that is for everyone. And I know I sound like a broken record on this, but I really do need to emphasize that. If my best girlfriend likes it from the back and that's the only way she likes it, she'll get on all fours in a heartbeat and bang it out all night. But that's what she likes. She likes it from the back. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have a freak factor. It means that that shit works for her to no end and she's enjoying it. So just because that's her thing and I do 101 other things, there's no competition. I'm not, there's no contest. There's no trophy you're going to get for out fucking somebody else. Okay? It just isn't. You fuck differently. You live differently. You have different experiences. And here's a newsflash. You have different triggers. Okay, so one trigger for this person does not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means it's not my trigger, okay? And that's like whips, chains, bondage, butt plugs, nipple clamps, piercings, waxing, okay? Those are triggers for different people. And if it works for them, let them be. Let them get off. You get off. Everybody's happy, okay? But do understand, if you allow somebody else other than your master to dictate what makes you happy and what doesn't, what your sensuality should be, you are losing a lot of pleasure and joy in your life. Have a mind of your own, stick to your guns, and here's a big ass tip for you. Don't tell everybody your shit, okay? Because when you start sharing too much of your intimate self, you leave yourself open for unnecessary judgment unnecessary ridicule and unnecessary opinions because quite frankly, like everybody, an opinion's like an asshole. Okay, we all got one, but I don't necessarily need to see yours. Okay, so again, one of the biggest things you can do is, unless it's within a tight community of like-minded people, you don't always have to talk about your shit. Okay, let's go with that. um Another flag on a play, don't, and this is a major one, don't ignore cultural differences. Don't ignore traditions either. And here's the reason for that. There may be something that a white master wants to engage in with a black slave. If that slave has had bad experiences with the police, if that slave has had bad experiences on a regular, in a work environment, or if that person, because of their race, feels a sense of inferiority, coming at me in a way to train me in humiliation, for instance, which is to help. I know it sounds weird, but in humiliating someone, it helps bring out their inner strength. There's a way that it's done, but that's usually the end result. However, if this person's mindset is not there, it is a master's duty and job to help nurture them, develop them, and get them to a point where you can have a humiliation session with them without it being traumatizing for them. But that only comes if a master does not blow off cultural differences. In fact, you should embrace them, okay? Because variety, damn sure, is the spice of life. Okay, another thing you do not want to do, and we kind of touched on it earlier, don't mistake a fetish for compatibility. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Don't mistake a fetish for compatibility. Meaning, again, if you are a black man and your desire is to have a white master, is it the whiteness that you're looking for? Is that your fetish, which is nothing wrong with it? But be honest about it. Is that what you're looking for? Or do you want a master and your master, just the best master for you, just happens to be white? Do pay that some attention, because if the main draw for you is to be controlled by a white person, it's not really the scene that you're into. It is that romanticizing of slavery that is getting you off. And no other color, no other race is going to give you the sexual satisfaction that you're looking for. That's a fetish. If, however, your master happens to be white and you're really into the scene, your master could also happen to be black. Your master could also happen to be Mexican. Your master could be Arab. It doesn't matter. A good master is a good master. You're into the scene, and what you're looking for, the qualities of a good, nurturing, firm-handed master. Okay? So do understand that there's a difference between being compatible, meaning that you are looking for a partner, because that's what the bondage scene, the S&M scene is. It is a partnership where everyone has a particular role that they fit into, and they develop it to the max. Okay? A fetish is that particular thing. It's just something like whiteness, like thickness, like boobs, like ass. It's one particular thing that is the main focus of your sexual arousal. So be clear on that, because if it's just a fetish thing, there's nothing wrong with it. Role playing with like-minded partners is fabulous, but don't get it confused for somebody who's truly a submissive or who's truly a master, because if you just have a fetish, it's not going to work. Okay. Last but not least, do not do not let misunderstanding or miscommunication go unresolved. Not saying have a fight about it, but if something is said or if something is done that either the master or the slave is uncomfortable with, don't ignore it and walk away. Talk about it. Get both of the sides out, understand where it went wrong, and then make sure to correct that action and don't do it again. If you don't talk to each other about misunderstandings, if you don't communicate fully, and I mean fully, completely, and honestly with one another, injuries can actually happen where someone is being spanked too hard, or a tool or toy is introduced into the role play or into the training that someone wasn't ready for or someone didn't want, and it caused harm and resentment. So you really do need to be emphatic about communication and talking to each other after a scene or after a play session is over to make sure that you both were on the same page. Okay, we're going to jump into our last break of the night, and I'll be right back, lovers. Welcome back, lovers. This is the Naughty Scribe, and once again, you're on the Nice and Naughty Hour. Now, tonight's topic was about BDSM. Are you or can you truly call yourself a black man if you have a white master? And I hope that in our discussion tonight, you understand, fuck yes, you are a real man first and foremost before you black, white, pink, or purple. And yes, if you happen to be black, and your master happens to be a white man or a white woman, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you. As long as you have a nurturing master, as long as you are a obedient and willing, consensual, submissive, then boo boo, do you and do you to the max. Okay? Now, we're going to get into a little bit of the naughty news real quick. Okay, lovers. Well, as you know, in the United States, the big showdown, the final smackdown between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump will be November 8th. So we're going to plan something special for you guys on the 9th. So just putting that little bug in your ear. We're going to do something really special after the election. We're going to have our own little kind of recap, and we're going to do it with a really special person. Okay. Next, the new book, yes, I am writing, lovers. Pay the Piper is going to be out in early 2017. So again, the next book is an erotic crime mystery set in the DC area, written by yours truly, the Naughty Scribe, will drop in early 2017. Okay, so support a sister and be on the lookout for that. Also, my Survey Monkey survey, and yes, I've been peeking. Okay, the question was asked, BDSM, dilemma or hype? Can you call yourself a black man if you have a white master? And the results were kind of predictable, but they are what they are. The last time I checked the poll, a good half of you said that it didn't make a difference. That yes, you are a black man, and I love my motherfuckers for knowing that. But a good quarter of you guys said, yeah, it kind of does make a difference. It is a bit of a dilemma. So I hope that I've given some education onto the subject, that you understand that it doesn't have to be a dilemma. But here's the thing, and guys, I really need you to understand this because we kind of touched on this last week. Just because it feels and looks kinky to you does not necessarily mean that you have the mindset, doesn't necessarily mean that you have the mindset or the emotional maturity to deal with that scene. So please, lovers, if the idea of being cuffed is not really something you can handle, don't ask for it, because you might find a bitch like me who will say, okay, baby, we can do this. And your ass will be screaming all fucking night. And you'll be looking at me all confused in the morning because it felt good, but now you don't know if I still think you're a man. Here's how you can tell if I believe you're still a man. If you keep your mouth shut and let me make you breakfast, you're a man. Okay? My mama taught me to cook when I've been fucked well. Okay? If you say something stupid, that's a punk ass move. Wash up. I'm that nice. I'm gonna let you wash up, but then you gotta get the fuck out. Okay? So understand this, guys. A lot of times you fuck it up for yourselves by saying something stupid. If it felt good to you and you were going with it. If it was good last night, it was good this morning. And if you feel embarrassed about it, either don't do it again or keep your mouth shut and don't tell your boys. Okay? Okay. Um, Lastly, we're going to start with the black bag giveaway. So yes, the boutique is going to be back, and we're going to do the black bag giveaway next month. And again, lovers, this item is too big to go in the black bag. We are giving away a dance pole or a stripper pole, however you want to phrase it. It is one that you can actually screw into your ceiling, or it has a tension cap, which means you can put it up, have some fun, and then crank it down and put it under the bed before the kids get home and know that mommy and daddy had a special lunch. Okay? So just letting you know that the grand prize is going to be given out around very close to, or maybe just after, because we air on Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Okay. So again, the Nyce and Naughty Adult Boutique. We're going to get back into our black bag giveaway, and we're going to be giving away a dance pole. Okay. And that's going to kind of do it for tonight. One last thing I'm sorry. I do want to do a rundown. Remember, the rap contest, get your entries in to Jeremy Beaver at Listen Vision Live Studios. The winner is going to be featured on the show. You're going to be interviewed. You're going to talk to us about your music, your life, where you're going with your career. Your music's going to be featured on the show, and the grand prize winner is going to get a 5-hour block of recording time at Listen Vision Live Studios. So that's a lot of time to be given for free, and you're not, let's say you're not paying for it, because that shit costs money. Okay. So do make sure that you get your entries into Jeremy Beaver. Watch the show again. The clip is also on my site, as well as advertisement. Nyce and Naughty on Facebook, Nyce and Naughty on Twitter. Okay. Nyce and Naughty on Instagram, Nyce and Naughty on Google Play. Find us where you are. Okay, we're all over the place. So that's gonna do it for me tonight. I want to tell everyone thank you so much for again supporting a sister. Asking for the show back. I'm really happy about that. Next week's topic is going to be a little bit on the lighter side. We are going to have our what the fuck moment as weird sex laws, because yes, there's plenty of them, darling. And there's a couple of scandals I want to research before I bring them up to you next week, okay? So until next Wednesday, life's nicer when it's naughty. See you later, lovers.